Howdy, Vine Trippers. I wanted to take just a moment to talk to you about the Texas Wine Lover website and their phone app for both iPhones as well as Google devices. You can actually download this app, put it on your phone, or just go to the website if you're not an app person. And if you ever want to go visit some of these great locations that we've been talking about in the podcast, this will give you a great information about the place before you go. And you'll be able to find other wineries in the area. So if you want to make a day of it, go see several other places as well. You can search by region. You can sort the listings, find ones that are kid-friendly, family-friendly, even ones that host RVs. All kinds of different sortable listings you can find there in that app and on the website. You can find other things as well in the area like restaurants, accommodations, maybe events that are going on at the different wineries. So it's your one-stop resource that goes hand in hand with this podcast to be able to find those great places to go visit. So check out the Texas Wine Lover website. It's txwinelover.com. Or go to their app. You can find it on the Google Play Store or the Apple Store as well. Enjoy your trips among the vines and use that app. Welcome to Texas Under Vine, an exploratory podcast to scout out the best that Texas wine country has to offer. I'm your wine guide, Scott, and I'm here to lead you on an auditory expedition to the vineyards and wineries across the great Lone Star State. Each episode will cover a different vineyard, winery, or wine-related business operating in Texas. You'll hear interviews, descriptions, and details about each location that will excite you to visit and experience them for yourself. Ready to plan a wine tour? Use these episodes to choose the most interesting spots for you and your friends to check out. Most of all, enjoy hearing about the rapidly growing wine industry in the state and what makes our wines and wineries the best. Howdy, fellow Vine Tripper. So welcome to episode 44 of Texas Under Vine. For this particular episode, I find myself wandering a little northwest of the Austin area, up near Burnet, Texas, and I was there to visit Creeks Vineyard. It's a family-owned and operated vineyard and winery started by Briggs and Carol Horn in 2017, along with Briggs' parents, Jerry and Janice Horn. After several years, successful careers in the IT industry, Briggs and Carol wanted to do something a little new, a little different, and so they decided to partner with Briggs' parents to start a family-oriented business, something that they could do together, as well as leave even a family lineage. Now, after starting by initially producing some wine and getting their vineyard planted, they actually opened the doors to their tasting room in 2019. As you may recall, that was a very turbulent time to start a new business with the pandemic right on the doorstep. But they weathered on through the storm and have made it through successfully. And they actually got their name from a nearby development called Seven Creeks. It's a ranch development nearby. And they settled on that for their name of the winery itself. Again, it's just kind of northeast of Burnet, really almost halfway between Burnet and Bertram, Texas. Now, for the vineyard itself on site, they have about 15 acres. They've currently planted around 8 to 10 acres of that with plans to plant even more this year. And some of the varietals that they actually have planted on site are Tannat, Mourvèdre, Alicante Bouschet, Suzhou, and Vermentino. Now, when they went to build the tasting room, one of the things they loved about the property when they purchased it was this beautiful grove of live oak trees. So they purposefully built the tasting room to be next to this live oak grove there. They'll decorate it with lights and things like that when they do events and so forth. They also purposefully planted the vineyard so that as you come into the location, you actually have to drive not only through the vineyard, but you kind of curve around through the vineyard to get back to where the tasting room is. So you're getting this exciting little pathway as you pull up through all of the vines and the grapes to get up to where the tasting room is by that beautiful oak grove. And as far as wines go, they do offer a mixed variety. They have reds, they have whites, they have a rosé, they even have sparkling. So they should be able to find something to hit most everybody's palate when you go to visit. And one other fun little unique thing that they do at the winery is they regularly do what they call junk food pairings, where they'll pick a different type of what's considered junk food and do different pairings with different wines of that particular item. You'll hear more about that in the interview, but I tell you what, my little sweet tooth has got me wanting to come back and experience one of these fun junk food pairings myself. I'm always wondering when I'm having my own little junk food cravings, what wine should I drink with this? I usually skip the wine because I'm never sure what to pair with junk food, but they've got the answer for you. Now, while I did spend some time walking around the vines, the tasting room, kind of getting familiar with everything, the highlight of my trip was a chance to sit down in the barrel room with Briggs and Carol Horn for the interview. Now, not only during the interview did I get to hear some of their background story, but unique from any other of my podcasts I've done so far, they actually poured some wines throughout the interview. So it was kind of a combination of a tasting and an interview at once. So without further ado, let's go find out about those great wines and their incredible story there at Seven Creeks. All right, we're here with Briggs and Carol Ford of Seven Creeks Vineyard. So Briggs is the owner and winemaker, and Carol, his wife, is another one of the owners, and she is the tasting room manager as well. So they're going to tell us a little about this great place. So first off, I'll let either of you go, or both of you want to go, whichever order you want to do it. But how did you get into the wine industry?
Yeah, so it actually started with my parents, or my dad and my stepmother, Jerry and Janice, and we've all loved wine and been pretty passionate about it. But in, gosh, what was it, 2014, something like that, in 2013, 2014, like most people, would go out to Napa, Sonoma, California, had an amazing time. But my parents are very entrepreneurial. So they, over many times in their career, they've changed that career path. Whether it was being a CPA, working in marketing, then shifting over to be a general contractor building homes for 20, 30 years. Like, nothing has ever phased them from switching careers. Whereas, both Carol and I have been kind of in the IT sales industry for a very long time. And I wouldn't say it's the safest industry in the world, but it definitely has a lot of comfort.
It's steady.
Yeah. So we got really enamored with the whole experience, and just kind of, that's where the seeds kind of fell in. And obviously we'd been going to a number of different Texas wineries at the time, and had, kindled some relationships with a couple of the owners at some of those places. And, my dad and stepmother were just, Janice were just like a sponge. And so they were like, we want to get into this. Would you guys entertain?
Like, their retirement plan was to have a vineyard, like, in their backyard, and like their tasting room sort of be their living room, and, just a welcoming environment. So that's what they had. That's what they envisioned, their just like retirement plan being.
So and my dad has always been really into wanting to have a family business. And years ago, like, I went to Baylor University for my undergraduate degree. And at the time I was doing accounting because my dad was a CPA. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And that was short-lived. But yeah, he always wanted me to come work for him after. And so this was kind of a good, path to have our careers kind of converge in, have a family business, something he could pass on, or that they could pass on to us. And didn't understand at the time how hard it was going to be getting into it, how much money it takes, a lot of money and a lot of time. We kind of knew that coming in, but certainly were surprised. Yeah, that's essentially how it started. And from there, started learning as much as possible. I did, Texas Tech has a good winemaking certificate program, out in both. They do it in their campus, but then also, in Fredericksburg, they have a campus out there. And so I studied under Marie Qualia, there, and I had a great time. And then of course got into it and put our vineyard in first, we bought the land in 2017, and then planted our first 3,500 vines in 2018. Was probably a little bit too much to do. There's a big learning curve when it comes to growing grapes. And we'd also had a lot of conversations with some people in California, people that we met when we were there. And, a lot of things you learn, we were learning things of how people did things in California. Well, this isn't California. And things that work there don't necessarily work here, vice versa. And so there was definitely some learning curves, but it's been amazing. And the fact that we have this family business to do as a family, grow closer together has been amazing.
Yeah, no, we've learned a lot. I mean, going into it, none of us knew anything about farming, not really.
Okay.
I knew nothing about running a small business or managing employees or, I mean, just every, like you said earlier, we wear many hats in our roles. I'm a tasting room manager, but I also coordinate all of our events, and whether that's offsite, events that we work or on-site, private events, parties that we work. And so it was all very brand new territory to us. And started out, we just literally didn't know what we were doing. I mean, we had a good idea because we did, we did have a good business plan in place, but, thank goodness. I mean, everything has exceeded our expectations year over year. It's like we learned that if you, just put your heart and soul into it, which we have, people will come to you. If you're putting out an exceptional product that you put a lot of love and passion into, people will appreciate that, and they do. So it's been a very rewarding experience for sure.
I think we've been pretty fortunate too, because the area we're in is really starting to become a burgeoning winery. It's not Fredericksburg. I always like to tell people we're the Sonoma to their Napa.
Yeah.
In a way. But it's been in a lot of ways there's a parallel. Obviously, they're a much larger wine region, but on the flip side of it, it's a little more casual here. There's more distance between the wineries, so hopefully you get to drive a little bit with buzz off. But in addition to that, the places tend to be a little bit smaller. You see a little more family atmospheres when you're out here. You get to have a little more casual. I should say casual. Yeah, I say casual kind of conversational experience when you're at places out here versus kind of being herded through, like on some of the bigger ones that are out there. And so that's something we've always tried to have as a family atmosphere where everyone feels comfortable while they're enjoying the wine.
Yeah, and one thing that I do love about the Texas wine industry, going back to what Briggs was saying, is that everyone's super supportive of each other. We've forged some really great partnerships with, other winery owners and winemakers, just bouncing ideas off of each other, or what works best for you? What would you do in this situation? So, we've definitely found a very welcoming environment, in this industry, and that's helped us a lot. And in turn, now that we're sort of like, we're not necessarily the new kids on the block anymore, we are still young. Briggs has, taken the opportunity to mentor some newer winemakers or wineries that are kind of coming up in our area. So it's just a very rewarding experience overall, for sure.
It is a very farmer first kind of friendly environment, both on the grape growing side and on the winemaking side, and the tasting room side too. And so everyone here wants to help each other out. It's a very warm industry, totally different than what we've been used to.
We all want to succeed, right? And we all want to see each other succeed and continue growing the industry. It's insane right now, for what it is, but I think it can only get better.
Yeah, the Texas wine industry has exploded. Unfortunately, I see, this might be getting to another conversation or discussion, but the things that I see a lot, we used to live in Austin. Big foodies always have been, loved the whole farm to table movement that Austin embraced years ago of supporting locality. But unfortunately, you open a wine list and there's like all California, French, Italian, whatever. And, it's like, and there's some places that have stepped out that mold and changed that, just like they did with food years ago. And so, it's exploding. Slowly but surely, you're getting people that are coming out. I think I was telling you there was a stat. I'm trying to remember the source of it. They were saying something like Texas is, I think, the third largest state in terms of wineries, and half of those have been since 2019, which is, summer 2019 is when we opened our doors, which was 6 months after government shut down, and months before COVID. It was an amazing time.
And I don't know if I could make a nod to like the specific restaurant in Austin that sort of introduced us to just like Texas wines on a restaurant menu, and that was Dido. They're on the east side in Austin. Incredible restaurant, farm to table. They do a lot of game. We opened the menu and noticed that there were nothing but Texas wines on there. And one of the first Texas wines that we tasted in a restaurant was Lewis wines. And that was back when Doug Lewis didn't even have a tasting room. Like, you literally had to call and see if he was around. Like, I don't even know if he was doing tastings out of his barn or what, his house or what, but
Back at the kitchen table, of course.
yeah, like you couldn't, it was like you never knew, if he was available or, but everybody was like clamoring to taste their wines. And anyway, so that was an amazing experience. And it's just, I would love to be, we would love to be part of that someday, but we're enjoying being a boutique for now. And, just like having people come to us and, experience our wines. Because we like to tell the story, behind our wines, and he loves to talk about, the winemaking and,
So do you want to try some wine?
Sure.
Yeah.
Very good. We'll do a little bit of a tasting here while
Yeah. So some of that slow, steady growth is much better, though, and easier to work with than that explosive growth. That can really be very difficult as a business.
Yeah, I got it's and some people, this is a Trebbiano.
Okay.
So I'm a high plane.
Yeah. Nice Italian like rival.
And this is definitely a little bit lighter. I'll do a little pot at this. Cheers.
Yes, cheers.
Yeah, so as far as growing and stuff like that, and yeah, that's something that there's like two factors to it. I mean, part of it is money and how much money you have to actually grow, because it costs a lot of money in this industry, both from a grape growing and a winemaking perspective. And so part of it is growing based on what that is. But I've seen in horror stories talking to other wineries where they expanded too quickly and either outgrew what they could do, or either from a cost perspective and from a demand perspective, but even in some cases at the expense of making good wine. It's very labor intensive on both fronts. And I think sometimes if you get too ahead of yourself and you're not staffed properly, or you don't have labor that you can trust to make wine like you can, we haven't had that luxury yet. But so we can control everything we do. But as you grow, at some point you gotta let loose a little bit of control, and I think it's important to have people that you trust to carry on the wine or the grapes that you're growing in the way that you would normally do it. And so I've seen some people that have grown a little bit too fast at the expense of the wine.
All right, you mentioned 2017, 2018 is kind of when you first kind of got started, opened your doors here in 2019. So tell me a little bit about this location's history. So how did it get started? How did you find this place? What was your thought pattern of all that?
I mean, we kind of looked in, we had a real estate agent that we were working with at the time, and he drove us, we kind of wanted something off the beaten path. We considered very, very briefly maybe looking around Fredericksburg, but super expensive.
And this is 2017.
Yeah.
Right? Not,
Yeah. And also, we just kind of felt like, no, maybe it's becoming a little too oversaturated. Maybe we just want to do something off the beat. And our family being the way we are, we always do things against the grain, and just like, we don't do the norm, we don't go with the norm. And especially his dad he wants to do the exact opposite of what everybody else always wants to do. And that's just kind of how he rolls. But so we just happened to, the guy was like, okay, we were driving around. He goes, just humor me. I found this piece of land. It's 10 acres. It's beautiful. I think you'll really like it. And so we drive up, and you saw the big oak grove, right? Drive ahead.
gorgeous.
9 trees, beautiful, beautiful cluster of sister oaks. But driving in, that oak grove was just so overgrown, like you couldn't see through the tree. You couldn't see the road through the tree when you were standing on this side of it. But we were standing there, and we were like, you know what, if we clean that tree up, and like, can't you just envision like the vines behind the tree, facing the road, and watching people drive through the vines, and, how that experience, driving up to the tasting room, and that just kind of sold us. I think that was the selling point, was that tree. And it's funny because, when we found this land, the guy that owned the ranch development up here called Seven Creeks, we actually own some land, and we're about to start building a house up the road here in Seven Creeks. But, we came up with all of these cool names. We were coming up with all of these cool names for our winery, and everything was trademarked or taken or whatever. So he was like, why don't you just call it Seven Creeks, because he really wanted to tie us into the community, because we all felt like it would be a really good selling point. Hey, who doesn't want a vineyard and a winery in their backyard,
Right.
And so we the tree, first of all, is what we fell in love with. And just, it was so peaceful out here. It's obviously grown a lot. Lots of homes have been built out here. Lots of, new developments are going in, but we still love it. We still love this piece of property. We love the land. It's treated us very well. It's produced some beautiful fruit for us, in our last few harvests. And we recently just purchased this additional 5 acres next to us that we're planting more vines on. So as Briggs talks about just overdoing it, like we're planting more vines this year. So, and I think we're done for a while after that.
I told my dad if he planted more vines wrong, I quit. It's a lot. There's only so much you can mechanize, and especially as a smaller operation. And then there, like I said, there's that point of like, I don't want to trust people. So I'm like, you're fighting two different things. I want to grow, but I don't want to hire people to do it because I want it done my way or my dad's way. But yeah, so at some point you're like, I'm done. But to kind of piggyback of what she was saying, I mean, the Seven Creeks name was very aptly done because, especially opening up during COVID, we had a lot of family and friends that helped out. Like I said, it's a burgeoning wine area, but a lot of customers that were already familiar with other places that are more well-established in the Burnet area, Northern Hill Country area. But the community here, as it had been filling out, like especially during COVID when times were tough, like they supported us immensely. So it was a great, thing for us to have that community. So I'm glad we took the name. We actually, ironically, our last name's Horn. As a family, we were going to call ourselves, I think, Horn Family Winery was one name. But then I think it was around that time, maybe a little before, Horn Winery over on 290, a credit for it out of California opened up, and I was like, oh, are you kidding? The one name that wasn't trademarked is now, and they spell it differently, but it's nevertheless. But yeah, it's been a great area. Like I said, the soil, everything is so far has grown exceptionally well. We first planted in 2018, and nothing had been done on this land, and that we, at least not in any past generation or 10 since we've all been in this part of the world. So the first planting, everything just took off. It went nuts. And it was a very wet year in 2018. So everything just exploded. And of course, we were sitting here thinking like, oh, it's an oasis. It's that amazing place. And we had a learning curve there because if you start blending grape growing, the first thing you'll learn is, you grow in stages. You can't just, no matter how vigorous a site or a plant is, you can't overextend the growing capacity of that plant. There's no shortcuts in this business, or there is, but you'll pay for it. And so, it's been a great place. Like some people are awesome. The land's been awesome, and looking forward to growing.
Yeah.
Seven Creeks. I presume there's some creeks around here that's named after. Or
Supposedly.
Dry creeks, probably.
Yeah.
It's not like.
Yeah, I definitely, we have a friend who, she works for Dell. She's kind of a friend of a friend, but she owns 50 acres off the road at Seven Creeks, and she definitely has some creeks running through her property. But who knows if that's part of the seven? Yeah, I don't know. So it's kind of a myth, maybe, or who knows? Maybe there are Seven Creeks. We just don't know where they are.
Yeah, we wanted to name it. At least me personally wanted to name it something with oaks because we have so many. They're just majestic, and it's like 10,000 square foot of coverage. It's big. It's a big oak grove, but there's so many wineries that have the name oak, and it was just like, so then we were like, oh, we'll call it something in Spanish. Like it is Paso Robles, is that? That's like because I think, and so, but it's like, I'm not going to go there because we'll butcher in Spanish, and everyone that knows Spanish is going to,
Sam, also, we just, so speaking of all the, kind of friends and people that we know in the community, Ron Yates' house, Spicewood, they had just had to rebrand because they got a cease and desist letter based on their name, Yates Family Winery, from some winery, little tiny winery out in California. They'd been in business for 20 plus years. Somehow they got wind of it. So he was like, damn it, I've got to reprint all these glasses. So I just kept thinking, I was like, we just have to come up with something simplified and something that no one else has, that there's absolutely no way that anybody would ever, could ever come after us for the name. So we just settled on something. It's from here.
Tell me a little bit about, you said in 2019, it's when you opened the tasting here. COVID hits, you've opened this brand new winery. You want people to come out. Now what? How did you survive or weather?
It was interesting. So the first challenge we had was, there was a government shutdown before COVID, that big government shutdown that happened, and we were in the process of waiting for our permit through, and it had gone, we had submitted it, and so we couldn't pour, and so it was just kind of a hot mess. And so finally,
You get labels.
yeah, you get labels.
That requires
Yeah. And so it was like we were scrambling, and we had an opening date, like a soft opening date that we had, blasted out and publicized, and we're like, what do we do? And so that finally kind of got cleared up. But then, of course, COVID happened. So that was interesting to navigate. And that's where the community kind of came into play, and everybody was sort of like, until we had direction from, the government, like, what do we do? How do we deal with this? And so, we were coming up with creative ways to continue to stay open and not, just have to close our doors 2 months after opening, or, whatever. And we found that even in 100-degree weather, people will come out and sit outside and socially distance and drink red wine. And so, we just, kind of navigating all of the direction that we were getting from the government, like closing our tasting room, not doing face-to-face tastings, wearing the face mask. We did all of that. We followed the rules. We did all of that. But we turned our back, our outdoor area into a socially distanced gathering place for people to come out and drink wine and endure the heat, and they did it. And it was brutal. I'll be honest. It was very scary opening a business, not knowing what to expect, and then being hit with that and not knowing from day to day, like, if you were just going to have to shut your doors indefinitely and see your business tank before you even got started. Like, it was pretty scary. It was daunting, and I'm really proud of how we sort of, trust me, there were lots of fights and like butting heads over people. Some of us wanted to do things this way, some of us wanted to do things this way, but we got through it as a family, as we always do, and came out better on the other side.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you'd be surprised. Like, it was very tough early on, but then, like you said, we were living in Austin at the time. It was so shut down. And so, yeah, I think just you got a lot of people there. It's like, I got to get out of town. I got to go out and be in the country and breathe fresh air, get out of my living room, my office that's in my home, and do it in a safe manner. And yeah, we had it. The first 2 months were rough. And like I said, this community around us, helped keep us afloat. All your life savings are going into this business. It's a very expensive business. And like, especially for us, because it wasn't just starting a winery and a taster room, it was starting a vineyard. And you have the cost of land. It's about 20-30 grand an acre to put in a vineyard, and that's not including labor, and that's not including the time it takes for the vines to mature, to produce fruit, to then produce wine. So there's just a lot into it. And so when you first start up and that's your welcome, it's daunting. But yeah, no, it turned out well. 2 months after, I think there was a lot of COVID fatigue, not to put light on the situation, of course, but sure, there was definitely a lot of fatigue of people saying, I need some normalcy in my life. And so us having the venue to do it in a safe manner, worked out really well for us. And you have a beautiful oak grove surrounded by, or we have a massive oak grove that's surrounded by a vineyard. And so it's just a very warm, friendly place and beautiful place to enjoy some wine.
You didn't just weather a storm when you started. You weathered a hurricane when you first started.
There was.
If you could make it through that, then you could make it. All right. Now. Well, you've got some vines here. One of the things I loved when I was first pulling up, and I don't know if this is intentional or a reason why, maybe the oak grove there, whatever, but I love how when you first come up and you're coming through the vines, it's not just a straight drive right up to the taster. You actually turn and you kind of maneuver and you're kind of driving throughout the vines until you come up onto the taster. It was kind of a cool thing. So with all of these vines you have planted here, what sort of varieties are you growing here on site?
Yeah, so we have 5 different varieties. Unfortunately for us, 4 are reds, which as a young vineyard, it takes a few years for the vine to establish to be fruit worthy. Right. And then, of course, most of the reds we have are bolder reds. So now you're looking at a couple years in a barrel. But outside of that, now we wanted to grow vines that we knew, or at least had an inkling that we're going to grow well in our obviously our climate and our soil. But we also wanted to grow stuff that wasn't super popular, at least the time when we planted it, right? So, and this isn't throwing shade at anybody, but like we didn't want to grow Tempranillo. One of the people in the industry, and Tempranillo is an amazing grape, does great in our state. So we actually have a red blend that's very Tempranillo based, and it's called Pride Envy, and the pride part is Tempranillo, right? So But from a grower's perspective, we learned early on, they were like, hey, don't, I can't remember who told this if it was wrong or not, but they were saying, probably it was wrong, but it was, don't plant something that you can easily source for. And Tempranillo just tends to, outside of Cab, last I checked, outside of Cabernet Sauvignon, Tempranillo is the second highest grade red grape that's harvested here in Texas. And it's like, not that I'm not proud of what a Texas Hill Country Tempranillo can be, but it's just, there's so much of it. Let's focus, and it's not just 20 to 30 grand per acre to put a vineyard in. That plant's going to be in the ground when we die. It's 30, 40 years of investment of time. And it's not something that's just easily, I don't like this anymore, I'm just going to rip it out. So we wanted to focus on things that were a little bit different, that would help with our name, and that people could really enjoy. And so we grow a grape called Suzhou, or Suzhou, depends on how you want to pronounce it. I'm not Portuguese, so I'm going to Texify some of these grapes. But we grow Suzhou, which is something that we've really become synonymous with here. It's a lovely Portuguese variety. Grows, and from a winemaker's perspective, it grows small berries with small clusters. So it's not ideal in terms of like volume, but those small berries produce just amazing. Yeah, it's a really good skin to juice ratio, and so that skin is where all the flavor and the color comes from, and so you just get a really deep, complex wine, and it's so different than a lot of wines that are out there. So that's one. We grow Alicante Bouschet, and which is a French hybrid, but it also grows very well a lot in Portugal. And it's one of the few red grapes that is actually red throughout. So not just the skin, but the flesh, the juice, everything is just deep, deep red. In fact, first time we were working on it, my dad came walking on our row and he'd squeezed one. He had red all down his hand. My buddy cut himself. But it's a lovely wine. It got impacted some by the February freeze of 21. So we replanted a good amount of that. All the vines at the back of the property when you're leaving is going to be all copy shade for the most part.
Very delicate vine for the art.
It's young. So it's good. So we go with those two. We grow Morbid. Morbid is my favorite grape in the vineyard to grow, just because it to me it's the least amount of effort. It wants to grow straight bud down. So if you see a vineyard, usually you're on a vertical shoot position system where you have a trunk and cordons and shoots growing up in a net. That plant just wants to grow that way. It doesn't want to bush out. It's a dream. It's the lightest of all our reds. We grow Tannat, which is a little bit more percentage-wise. It's the most of what we grow by a little bit, but we grow that. And then the lone white wine we do is Vermentino.
Okay.
Which has been really fun. So,
any planning on with your new 5 acres you're going to grow? You're going to add new things there or extend what you currently have?
Right now, so we did add a little more Vermentino just to have a little more white wines, because we had a decent like 1.5 acre block of Vermentino currently, but we just wanted a little more, and we wanted to go a little deeper into that volume versus going wider into white wines. If we had I wouldn't say do it over, but if we ever expand more on that property, I'd love to do Peak Pool Blanc. I think it grows great. One of the challenges we have here in Texas is acidity, or the drop of acidity, and Peak Pool tends to hold this acidity stronger than most. But we are going to grow more Suzhou.
Okay.
That's what we're planting probably in about 3 weeks. We're going to plant more out that way. And then there's a few acres of growth. So I think long term, once we have at least a couple years of exhaling and not having to plant vines, we'll end up probably doing hopefully another white. But if it is, I'd love to do Peak Pool.
Yeah. Our Vermentino has been delicious. So I think everything that we've grown, that we've aged or bottled so far has been really delicious. We've been very happy with our fruit, very proud. It's a testament to just all of the blood, sweat, tears that go into, a vineyard from grape to bottle, and just so I think we have a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, we have a new white wine we're about to open here soon. So that's Trebbiano. This one's going to be 2/3 Trebbiano, about 35% Moscato Giallo.
Okay.
So it's a Muscat variety. And then I think like 14% Viognier. So we haven't released it yet. We're going to release it in mid-May. It's a 23. And so you'll get kind of the citrusy notes of the Trebbiano with the classic hallmark, like honeysuckle, like a Muscat.
Okay.
So it goes really well.
Nice.
When Briggs talks about, or anybody, talks about just how cash intensive this business is. Like, you've got to have that money up front. If you're wanting to put out a product to put, your label on or your name on, when about how money, and, you're not bringing that out the buy, like you've got to have actual tangible product. And so,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, and shout out to Duke, man. I mean, their Vermentino to me is the best in Texas, like even better than my dad says that our Vermentino that we did was the best he'd ever had. But with all due respect, they're so amazing.
Do you want to tell us about the wine that we have here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your new one?
Yes, this is brand new. We just we'll release it in mid-May. So it's gonna be 64% Trebbiano, 22% Moscato Giallo, and see, I'm not Italian, so forget the pronunciation, and then 14% Viognier. Sometimes, fruit when it comes in, not when it comes in, but sometimes when fruit sometimes when you're making wine out of any, obviously, grape, the conditions those grapes grew in are going to have a vast impartment of flavor into that wine. And so I think what a lot of people don't understand is, we could talk about soil and all this kind of stuff, but to me, vineyard best practices makes the biggest impact in the wine. And that's taking away what a winemaker does for a living, taking it from scratch into a finished product, is the life journey of that piece of fruit, or that fruit that was on that vine, and how that canopy was maintained makes a dramatic impact. And all that canopy is filled with green tissue. It's green leaves. Anything else out there, anything that's green has a flavor, and it's usually a very herbaceous, think of a bell pepper, those kind of things, and grass. Yeah, absolutely. And so, sometimes if you're not, as a vineyard worker, this is a challenge you have when you source fruit and you don't have any control of, is how is that plant maintained during that year of it growing, or less than year of it growing. And if that canopy wasn't well maintained, I think you're going to taste that in the old field wine. Good. And so sometimes you might get a little herbaceous, and honestly, sometimes that's actually really good.
Yeah. Well, we talked a little bit about your estate vines here. Do you source fruit from other locations as well?
Oh, absolutely, and especially early on, because our first harvest here was in 22. The white wine, the Vermentino we released, sold out really quickly. Of course, it was the youngest part. And then since then, we released a Mourvèdre, which also sold out. And then we have a Souchal that's behind me that with a small amount that hopefully we'll release. But everything, meat source, generally speaking, is going to be the High Plains. And then a little bit of California too. When we first got started, so we made some really good contacts. My dad fell in love with Lodi, California.
Yeah. Could see that area.
Yeah, and Zen is his specialty. And so we have an old wine Zen. Sorry, I always call it Louisi, but we have an old wine Zen that we have every year from a really good grower out that way. And there's certain grapes out there that we make connections with out in California, because, like I said, we have a couple of varieties that aren't massively popular and not as easy to source. And so we just made a really good contact out there, a Portuguese, not a Portuguese vineyard, but they're a vineyard that specializes a lot of Portuguese grape, and they have a neighboring place that does a lot of like Italian stuff. And so that's kind of where the Zen. We've had their Souchal. Actually, some of these barrels have their Souchal from 22. And then, Tinta Amarilla was a good one. So, I'll give you a taste that here in a little bit. Tastes very much like Souchal. So, you build these connections. So we've sourced from Lodi, California. We've sourced from, obviously, a lot from the High Plains. As we build this vineyard to sustain this at least to about like 65% of what we're
sure. Okay. And then here we are in the barrel room. And do you do all your processing here on site?
Not all of it. Most of it we do. And then, but a lot of it just depends on the size and the space and what we need. So like with white wine, a lot of the white wine we'll do offsite. Just unfortunately right now, due to space, I don't have any like gold chilling. I don't have room for the amount of tanks I would like to have. And so kind of going back to, it's coming. The plan is a year from now, we're going to build a building this size. So hopefully it'll be a 6,000-7,000 square foot building, but we'll see what's costs come in. But it'll be in the back property. We'll do everything here.
Okay.
But that lack of space, especially for like white wine production, where temperature control is very important from fermentation onwards, just don't have the space for it. So to her point earlier, like this community is so incredibly supportive and helpful. They obviously don't do it for free. But they've been very helpful in helping us get started and not only give us the space we need to produce the wine that will finish off here, So any blending and that kind of stuff, filtering, I'll do here. But the knowledge has been amazing of picking their brain on various different topics and things that we work through. But yeah, most of the reds that we'll do here, the California stuff I'll do in California. Doesn't make sense to bring fruit in from California from so far away. Once you pick fruit, it's kind of a ticking time bomb. You need to start fermenting it right away. But I don't know, I'll probably 3/4 or more now coming up here very shortly is all Texas stuff that we have in taste room finally. So everything's very heavily swinging to doing it all on site here from start to finish. And in the next year, it will hopefully be at least like 95%.
So as a winemaker, what are some of your favorite wines to make?
My favorite is probably Seychelles, and that's only because the funnest time to make wine is the beginning. It's the fermentation process, right? It's like making bread. Seychelles to me, like I said, because those berries are so small, the frustrating part is you're not getting as much juice out of it, but the flavors are just intense. The aromatics are intense. You just get like the last couple times you've done it, it's been just blackberry cobbler, just wrapping up the hidden ear.
Those dark fruit,
Yeah, you get some really nice, like just dark cherry, and it's just so complex, and it's so hard to really nail down the flavor part. So for me, I don't know, that's been my favorite to do. Maybe on the flip side of that would also be Morbid, mainly because at the end of the day, I mean, we're a winery. It's nice and romantic to say you make wine and all this, but you got to make a living. And the problem with those big complex red wines like Seychelles and Tannat, they just take a while to age. And so the thing I love about Morbid, we'll pour one. We have an estate Morbid that I took out of our library that we sold out of. It had 10 months of aging in oak, and it was ready to rock and roll. We were like, okay, when should we release this? And I was like, it tastes amazing. And people ask, people ask me all the time, like, hey, so how long should we age this wine? And I was like, well, I mean, I think of aging wine like in bottle, right? Like I did. Yeah. Like when I age wine in a bottle, it's the same concept to me anyways, is why you age it in a cellar, which is I'm trying to help with clarifying or stabilizing the wine, which is not going to be a problem in the bottle anymore. But then two is I'm trying to smooth that wine out, right? It might be very dry. There might be a lot of tannins in it. And slowly over time, both in barrel and in a bottle, because a bottle has a cork, even if it doesn't have a cork, you're still going to have some oxygen getting in a bottle. And over time, that oxygen is going to slowly integrate into the wine and help smooth it out. It's like, when should you buy, but when should you drink a wine? I'm like, when you're happy with it. I'm not going to make a guess and say 5 years, 7 years or whatever. But I love Morbid to kind of continue on that because it doesn't take a lot of aging. You can enjoy it really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any thoughts on any of that
No, I just love watching him make wine. I love tasting it. Obviously, that's my favorite part is when we get to do barrel tastings and when he's doing his chemistry, all the sciencey stuff and doing all the pH levels and whatever else he does. That's the best part. Like I spend so much time I'm so busy in the tasting room and stuff that I don't get to really get out into the vines and do farming. I kind of choose not to, as well, because it's a lot more work.
So you can work on their tan in the same.
Yeah, but my favorite part is just seeing the outcome and seeing how, their hard work in the vineyard and his hard work, like aging it and just tasting it, and it tastes amazing. And obviously getting feedback from customers like, you made this is incredible. Like this is so good. That means, that's like, that hits you at the top of the world, when someone just gives you accolades for something you actually cultivated from the ground up, and that's such a cool experience. It's a good feeling.
Yeah. And especially because if you think of like how much time, yes, I always liken making wine and growing grapes that are really making wine is I kind of liken it to cooking, and so people are like, when's it ready? When's it going to come out? It'll be ready when it's ready.
Yeah.
And so, but like, when is it ready? And so how do you make that determination? And so, we'll sit down. So Carol and my dad and Janice will sit down and taste through them. And, I like very dry wine. So like, I have to kind of check my ego at the door because you do have to, is that not ready to release after 2 years of barrel, or should you do it in 3? Do you have the flexibility to do it in 3? I mean, you got to make money. So that's the other challenge traditionally has been balancing the business aspect with the art of when something's ready. But yeah,
Takes a lot of patience to wait.
Takes a lot of patience.
It really does.
And sorry.
No, just because we have people who come in who are like, I want your tonight. I want your tonight. And it's like,
And then people are like, well, can we taste the barrel? And I'm like, no, I can't open. I'm not opening that barrel every day. It's a trend.
yeah.
Shepherd it. But in terms of like, so that's ours. Like,
Yeah.
what's your favorite one that we made?
Of ours that we've I mean, I've always, like you, I've always been partial to the heavier body, like the Tannat and the Seychelles, but I am very, very, very fond of our first estate bed, which you will taste today. It's our 2022. He did an incredible job. The fruit was really good. I mean, I think it speaks for itself, but it's just, I mean,
You have to remind when we pour it off. You have to remind because it was our first harvest year. It was very challenging. You want to do the blondies? Okay. We have a good story with this next one.
yeah.
While she's doing that, I'd say from a customer perspective, though, most customers tend to be very similar. Like they like bigger, bolder reds. Those typically sell more. Obviously, in the summertime, it gets to be a fuel up. Obviously, love white wines and rosés.
Sure.
I would say our Seychelles was, and then that Tinta Amarola that we have, because they're so similar, have been people's favorite ours. And I think mainly because it's not just that big, bold red wine, but it's also, it's not like Tannat. It's not a big tannin bomb. It doesn't just suck all the moisture out of your mouth as soon as you take a sip. It's very smooth for a big, bold red. And so that one, and not only that, but it's a different name, and a lot of people hadn't heard of it. This one, by the way, is Blondie's Cuvée. And I don't know if people on the camera can see it, but this is our dog Blondie.
Oh, sweet.
And so a little story about Blondie. Well, first and foremost, this is going to be 50% Marsanne and 50% Riesling.
Oh, okay.
And so it was oak aged for 16 months. Yeah. His own age 16 months, a neutral oak. And obviously pretty typical common blending partners
Yeah.
in that part of the world. But we love it because obviously the color, you can obviously, it has a nice golden color to it. And our dog is named Blondie, who's about he is a Great Pyrenees Anatolian Shepherd blend. And so blends, I'm sorry.
He's a
Hey.
Yeah. But he's obviously golden color, so it was kind of aptly named. He showed up here almost 3 years ago. By the way, and I wanted to highlight him because he's become as synonymous with our place
Yeah.
as any of us have. He's a rock star.
Yeah.
Been your dog.
Yeah, he's a vineyard dog, and he's turned into a winery dog and a taste of him dog. He doesn't really protect the vineyard.
Very unicorn person.
He's very important. But he showed up here 3 years ago, and he had a collar, no tag, but he wasn't like malnourished. And unfortunately, sometimes in the country, people dump dogs, sad as it is. And so we didn't know what the situation was. He hung out for a couple days, and my dad was actually looking for a vineyard dog putting up. It was he was coming into our first, well, we had a little bit of fruit on the vine. So it was going to be maybe our first year of actually harvesting in fruit. And he ended up staying for a couple of days. His owners came by. They actually picked him up. So it turned out he actually had owners. The next day, he ran away and came right back. And so this happened, rinse and repeat every day for 2 weeks. And we'd call the owner, they'd come pick him up, and the next day he'd come right back. And so finally, my dad was like, hey, we really want a vineyard dog. We were actually looking for a Great Pyrenees because they're pretty common for vineyards. And would you guys entertain the thought of us adopting him? He obviously loves it here. They weren't really happy with the idea. They only had him for 3 months, by the way. So it wasn't like they had him for like 3 years. And he was like 2.5 years old, I think, at the time. And so they were like, look, he obviously loves it here. They live like maybe a mile from us. And so they were like, you know what, let's leave him here for a week. If he doesn't come back, you guys can adopt him. And he did not leave.
Didn't leave.
He came, he stayed. And
He came, he stayed, and he conquered.
now we were going to change his name to something like vineyard or winery related, but he knew his name already. They live so close. As a matter of fact, actually behind our property, there's a private road. That's their property. Okay. So every time they come and go, they drive down that private road and they see him, and he runs out to them, and it's nice and tight.
Hello.
Yeah.
I love that.
But it's definitely a more full-bodied white wine.
does.
Yeah, the Riesling comes big. I'm not really a massive Riesling guy. I do like it a lot more when it's made with Marsanne. I like Marsanne a little more than Riesling personally, but that's where you also going to have to check your ego at the door. I think it's important to make wine and grow grapes that you do enjoy, because you need to be passionate about talking about it. But we've kind of, in our short years, we've also kind of struggled with like, do you make different kind of wines for different customers, whether it be sweet wines? All the wine we do is going to be on the dry side. But do we make sweet wine? Do you make something that's going to be, oak aged like this, which I don't know. I think to some people it might be off-putting because they just think of oak aged Chardonnay, big butter bombs, which this is not. But it's really good. I just, it took a while to come to the realization, like, it needs to be served at the right temperature.
Yeah.
I like my white wines really cold, and I don't really apologize for it. I know you're supposed to get a little bit warmer because that way you get more of the aromatics, flavors and that stuff. I just like really crisp, dry white wines, and this is 100% dependent on temperature. We first released, we actually had a resawn before this one, and when we released it, that framework of always having it cold was like, we just did it, and we just did not like the wine, and you're like, I got to sell this, and so we got to the point where we're, I don't know, about like a few months in, maybe actually it was closer to a year in, we were like, matter of fact, actually we were making this blonde Cuvée, and I was like, and it was tasting good. I was like, I just think this needs to be warmer. And I love to say that we know it's already, but again, we're still younger. We still learn as we go. And it was like, I think we need to make that Risson a little warmer. We started doing it, and I was like, it actually tastes good. So it's those kind of learning curves, but I love it. It's definitely a fall wine or spring wine, based on the temperature. But of all the white wines we do, this is like the most food-friendly one. It just loves all types of food.
I like to call those happy accidents, where all of a sudden you did something you didn't mean to, but all of a sudden you go, wow, there's something that's impressive about this.
Yeah, and we actually have another. So the last rate we'll do is actually another happy accident. It's called the Red Tyrant. It was a blend, I wouldn't say a typical blend because it's cab, more of it's not. But I had some. It was 22. It was our first harvest, and we had a little bit. The more bed it'll have, I had some excess of that, and then we had a little bit of Tannat. Tannat got hit really bad by that February stomach getting 21 freeze. And to the point where I think we lost maybe 15% of our vines. There was another 15% or so that shut down. Yeah, we had to kind of cut back and regrow. They just, the trunk and any cordons that were there died off. And then we had to do a lot of replanting. So in 22, they're just, even though we have more plants of Tannat planted, we barely had anything. I didn't have enough to even put in a barrel, but I didn't want to just make a topping wine out of it. I wanted to showcase it in some way. And so we had some excess cab, and it's like, screw it, man. Let's just do it. It's not a traditional like harvest blend or fielder's blend that you everything together the same year. It's a non-vintage, but it's like, screw it, man. Let's just put this together and see how it turns out. It was a total gamble, and it was only one barrel. So if it didn't work out, it wasn't a huge loss, but I was like, let's see it. And it turned out really good. I'm really happy with it.
Worked out.
Yeah.
As a winemaker, are there any particular varietals that you have not had a chance to work with, but you would love, you kind of secretly crave, I would really love to work with this particular varietal. I just haven't had a chance.
Off the top of my head, there's a part of me that wants to do something with more native U.S. type varieties.
Okay.
So like a Norton or something like that. And I know in Stonehouse out there, near southwest of Austin, they grow Norton out there, and I think it's a good Norton that I've had from them, but I've never made it. Everything I've done is all Vitis vinifera, like typical European type varieties. So I've never done that. I would love to. I've never personally made a red Zinfandel from Texas. That would probably be my number 2, just because, like I said, we have a Zinfandel that's out of California, and that's where we've always sourced it, just because it's so unique. I don't know. I'd probably say those 2.
Yeah.
I also have never, and my wife's a very big sparkling fan.
Okay.
I like sparkling a lot too. I've never touched Pinot Meunier. I doubt it would, obviously, I don't know how all it do in Texas, but just because I know like a lot of those other varieties from Burgundy tend to struggle. Well, not Burgundy, but Champagne.
Yeah.
And tend to struggle over climate. Yeah. So Chardonnay, Pinot Noir. I've had some High Plains Pinot Noir that's okay, but it's just the problem with those, and at least from my perspective, and the problem with like Cab Sauv, even though I think we have a really good cab that will pull us out of, is that you're always, every time you taste it, you're always thinking of Napa. You're always thinking of Bordeaux or Burgundy or Russian River Valley or whatever. And so it's like, it's kind of the thing that I've always said, that like the Texas wine industry for me is always like the Wild West. Like, I don't think people appreciate that enough. I think, California, you have more wine history than I do, but like, they had a wild. I talked to Claude Duval in Napa one time. We did a really cool tour, and they were in the tasting of Paris, like back in the 70s and all that. Okay. And so I did a tour with them, and they were showing this one block. They're like, yeah, we ripped up all this. I can't remember what it was. They ripped up Merlot, even though they obviously grow Merlot, but they obviously wanted more Cab. But this was like back in the 50s or whatever, and they had a lot more Merlot planted. And they were like, well, obviously, like over time, Cab started becoming more popular, so they had to kind of reshape their vision and what they were doing. But even them at that point, they said, hey, back in that day, that we were in the Wild West. And, Napa wasn't as synonymous with the certain varieties that they've become not synonymous with. And if you look at France, like the old world in general, like every region is synonymous with a particular grape or grapes, and like Texas hasn't had that. Yeah, so we see what goes well and who doesn't. We have a good idea now, but what I was gonna say, that's why like I'm happy that we planted Tannat. I'm happy we planted Suchal. I'm happy we planted All Campichet. I'm still pretty young into this game, but the one thing have kind of figured out, at least from growing in the hill country, has been one thing we struggle with here is color.
Yeah.
And, the growing season for us is so hot, right? We, everywhere else you can say is 100 degrees or 90 degrees during the daytime in the peak growing season. But what's the nighttime swing?
Yeah. In the diurnal shift there.
Yeah. Like we have 80 degrees. So when ChatGPT came out, I played around. I was like, tell me about the Texas wine industry. And they gave me this whole dissertation, and it was very accurate. I was like, okay. But it said, one thing it said that was hilarious, and this is the free ChatGPT. Sorry. That was a little older, but it was basically saying like, oh, well, Texas's viticulture is a great area for growing grapes because of its warm days and cool nights. And you're like, what?
Where in Texas?
And I was like, that's plains. Yeah, we're like 80 degrees in the hill country, maybe mid 70s if you're lucky. And it's like, so things here ripen very fast. And so like 2022, which was our first vintage, the Suchal is a little bit lighter. That Tannat was a little bit lighter. And so that's why like getting it quick to market wasn't, it's in a blend, mind you, but it didn't really hurt me as much because it wasn't that super bomb. Like the 23s are very insane.
Yeah.
23, everything woke up early, longer growing season. The color just is amazing. The texture is just night and day from 2022 for at least us here in the hill country. But yeah, so like we struggle with color. And so the thing I like about what we planted is Tannat has a very thick skin. So naturally, you're going to get really good extraction out of it. You're going to get some tannins out of it, but you're going to get really good color. All Campichet is all red. So you're going to get really color from that. And then Suchal, which is, I've heard some people say it's also one of those Teinturier grapes. Sorry, I mispronounced it. Is that, I think, close? I guess
Something like that.
Something like that. It's like the full red grape, but I like
I've put your plenty of French words off.
It's so like Suchal, I've heard people say it is too. Like, I don't know, man. I worked with the fruit, so I'm like, yeah, I see it. I can see a little bit in there, but it's not like All Campichet. All Campichet is like all red. But that we get really good color from those fruits. So to your point, like Texas is a big state. What grows well here? And I was like, I think of like, how do we, as a winemaker, how do we make up for some of these shortcomings to pick the right fruit to plant and to make wine out of? And for us, if I can get more out of the skin as possible as a winemaker, I think I'm doing my job, and those grapes make it easier than if I was doing Tempranillo. Not again, I've had good hill country Tempranillo, but or Cab, Cab Sauv. If I make it here in the hill country, not to say it's bad, but it's like it's never going to be in Habit Cab.
Yeah. Well, we've heard a little bit about your location, some of the wines and things that you're doing. Let's talk about now. So listeners are getting excited. They was, we're going to go check out Seven Creeks. So let's talk about when they come here. What does a tasting look like? So when someone comes in and they want to do a tasting, do you have like a set flight of wines? Does the customer pick their own wines? How much does it cost? Do they need reservations? What are kind of the details around it?
Yeah, so I can speak about that. As a tasting manager, this is my wheelhouse, but so we offer multiple tasting flight options. We do all white, a mixed or an all red option. I tell customers, if you're feeling ambitious, you can do full board, and sometimes people do that. Sometimes people will just taste everything pretty much, that we have in our catalog. We're lucky enough that we do have an extensive list of wines that we are able to offer multiple options. And we also offer 2 sparkling wines. That was a big caveat for me. Opening a tasting room was like, I don't care where the sparkling comes from. People love their bubbles, and it's going to be very successful for us. And guess what? It's our sparkling rosé is definitely one of our top sellers. Like, people just love their bubbles. They love their sparkling wine. But, when customers come in, we want them to feel like they're just kind of hanging out at a friend's house, just we want it to be a very welcoming, relaxed environment, no pressure, no talking about our wine club 5 minutes in, just we like that to kind of come up organically. And, but, we try to make it just very approachable. I try to feel people out, like, how much do you know about wine? I don't ask them that, but I try to, gauge, like, do you know a lot about wine? Or are you a novice? Or are you just like, then of course you've got the curveball thrown at you. Oh, I only drink sweet wines. Oh, we don't have anything. But I'm always able to find something that they like. We have many things in our library that definitely do appeal to a sweet wine drinker's palate. I rarely ever miss the mark on that. Sparkling rosé is definitely the way to go. But so yeah, we just try to make it just a very relaxed, welcoming environment. If they want to hang out under the tree, provided there's always one of us working in the tasting room, we'll do your tasting under the tree. We'll, come in and if you want to sit under the tree, come in with each, every time you're ready for a new pour, and we'll, pour. People are super cool. They're very cool when they come out, but we just try to, I want it to be what I want to experience as a consumer. He and I go, not as much as we used to, unfortunately, but, he and I go and we try to, when we had to go out to Fredericksburg or Johnson City for something business related, we try to work in a couple of little, visits to some of our favorites out there or whatever, or new places, especially in new places, we never mention that we're industry or anything. We just go in as customers just to see what the experience is like and what kind of, experience we're going to have. And, so just as a person who loves wine tasting, who loves, being able to do something like that, I want people to have that same type of, environment around them. So,
that was something that when we started, like, so my dad and Jerry and Janice, that was they used to live here, like when we first opened. And so they lived in the back. And they were very, like, they wanted us to be, like, we even had a couch and everything in the tasting room. Which thank God is gone. No, not that. But to see, yeah, they were like, hey, they wanted this place to be like,
welcome to all living
kind of thing, you know what I mean? Yeah. In a way, like, not like, let's just eat some potato chips, football. But, like, they wanted it to be a very welcoming, warm atmosphere, and they set it up perfectly for that. And that's one thing that I've always had really good feedback on from customers is, like, you guys are so approachable. It's such a warm, friendly environment. I feel like I'm part of the family while I'm here.
Yeah. And one thing I really love to do, I'm constantly baking and doing stuff in the kitchen. Like, that's just kind of, what I love to do. And so I'm always bringing out brownies or different little pairing things, like when I'm doing the wine tasting, and people love that. They love just that. They just love getting that little treat, because it's unexpected. You just think you're going to go in, you're going to do a tasting, and then you're just going to leave, or you're going to buy bottles or, whatever. But I love, and that's a big thing that we're huge into, is pairing food with wine. So we do all kinds of different pairings throughout the year. But I probably have not even answered your question with all of my rambling. But yeah, our tastings start at
The 20
20 for 5 pours, 35 for, the full board if you're feeling ambitious. And
some people like the marathon.
yeah, and
You've got designated driver.
right, exactly. And reservations, we typically do not require reservations unless it's a big party over like 6 or 8 people, and people are they're very aware of that. They'll call and say, I have a big party. Do I need a reservation? I'll say, yeah, just so we can make sure we have a table reserved for you, whatever. But we are very accommodating, and we just, one thing I love seeing, especially in the spring and summer months, is people start getting into like vacation and, time off work, or all the people that come in from all over the country when they're, because we're lucky that we live in an area where there's lots of outdoor activities. We're close to Lake Buchanan, we're close to Spider Mountain and Eagle's Nest and, all of that. So there's all these people that come in and do these weekend things. So we get that weekend traffic and like the Monday overflow, people leaving town and they just want to hit up a winery or two on their way out. So meeting people from all over the country and the world is one of my favorite parts of doing tastings, for sure.
We'll do them more, bud.
Sure.
So So 2022 is when this was drawn. That was our first vintage. You probably, when you came in, you saw the nets up and everything.
Yeah.
So everyone always will ask us, I'm sure you're already aware of this, but a lot of people ask about, what are those nets on already for? And I mean, obviously they're there for birds and raccoons as as the year progresses and everything starts ripening, but it's also there right now more specifically for hail.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're right. There was a big hailstorm. A sister winery of ours, it's about 20, 30 minutes to the east of us, got those nets because of our experience I'm about to talk about, and they got hit with like golf ball to baseballs. Oh my gosh. And so, yeah, this year, and so 2022 was going to be our first vintage. You can see it's pretty lighter,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's more bed, so it's going to be a little bit lighter anyway. Year, like everything woke up. It was a very cool spring or late winter, and a very dry late winter. So everything woke up like in April, like early April, which for us is rare.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of late budding varieties, but in general, kind of on that purpose. But yeah, so it was a little slower growing season, or shortened over growing season. So yeah, that was one struggle. Maybe not so much for red, but in general. And then two, we got pounded with hail. We didn't have those nets yet. We had like the more traditional nets that you see that you put on right when ripening starts, so you take it off when you harvest. And we just got hit with, and it wasn't even big hail. It was a little bit bigger than pea. Like we heat a marble, but it came down with such ferocity that everything just got a haircut. And the vines didn't suffer, but a lot of the fruit, or it wasn't fruit at the time, it was flower plus.
Yeah.
That would have been fruit, was above the cut line of those shoots. So we lost probably 70% maybe of what would have been our crop. And then that poses its own challenges, because you'll start getting green growth again. It'll continue to shoot, but then it might start throwing new clusters out, which you don't want.
Yeah, harvest, right?
Yeah. I mean, you could if you had the time to do it then. But so that was the challenge we had. So we should have had probably 2 to 3 times this amount of fruit.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it turned out really well.
What are your operating hours? When can people come in?
Yeah, we're open 7 days a week, 12 to 6. Yeah, we did the whole, when we first opened, or not first opened, but after like first year or so, we were like, you know what, let's be closed Monday through Wednesday and just do the whole like Thursday and Sunday thing. But we found it, to our advantage to be open 7 days a week. Because again, we get that weekend traffic, vacationers, just, we have got a big community out here who just likes to come and have a glass of wine after work or, whatever. And, and we're lucky, we're fortunate enough that we all live close enough that we can just kind of, we're 10 minutes away, from here, and we can close up kind of whatever. But yeah, so we just, and we take advantage of that too, because lots of our competitors and places around here aren't open 7 days a week. So we get that traffic, people who are on a random Tuesday looking for a winery to go hang out on a nice, beautiful afternoon, they have the day off for, we get lots of teachers out here and days off and, stuff like that. So yeah.
The teachers love their wine.
They do. They
We
do.
know that. What about things like kids, or somebody wants to come out, they've got kids, they've got pets?
We're incredibly kid friendly. We're incredibly dog friendly. On any given busy Saturday, you will see kids running all over the place. Dogs
In a respectful way.
Yeah. And people, keep their kids on the leash. But no, we are very kid friendly, very pet friendly. Just it works out for us. We haven't had any weird situations or incidences that would make us, want to change the policies or anything. But Blondie is super chill with other dogs. He's just super sweet and nice and laid back. And he has his favorites that he plays with, the regulars that come up. But no, we're open to everyone.
We just had an event yesterday. It was goat yoga.
Oh, okay.
They bring little goats out, and they'll put them on your back and all that kind of fun stuff. And so Blondie handled them really well. So I mean, he's technically a hermine kind of dog, but he's a protector dog. But yeah, he did really well with them. He does really good with other dogs. Nice. He's super friendly and
You talked about earlier that you like to be in the kitchen and you have different food options. So you provide food options?
We're known for our charcuterie. I had created a really great, in the charcuterie, we offer different options, a small and a large. They're 30 or $50, just depending on how hungry you are and how many people you have in your party. And I do try to keep things very local and seasonal. I love to support local business. So for our jellies and jams, we use Round Rock Jelly Company. She's been great to work with. I've worked with her for several years now. We work with Miller's Meat Market in Lano for their summer sausage, which is super delicious. So we try to just support local and be as seasonal as possible. On any given weekend, you will find us doing some sort of food option. We're all foodies. We love to cook. His dad loves to be out on the grill, loves to cook. Yesterday, we did carnitas tacos and chips in a salsa bar. And, that's always
She makes amazing panini.
yeah. I'll do paninis probably once a month. I'll do grilled paninis, and I try to keep them seasonal. Those are always super popular. We're always in the summertime, we'll do burgers and hot dogs often, street tacos, like shrimp boil throughout the year. We do a pig roast once a year, and usually that's around one of our wine club pickups. But that's always super popular. So yeah, we're always doing something with food. And back to our pairings, we love to do wine and food pairings. We're all big into that. One thing we're really known for is our wine and cheese pairing. We do 2 a year, a spring one and a fall one. Unfortunately, we missed our spring one this year because we were so consumed with prepping and getting ready for our big eclipse event.
Let's say big event happy.
That took out all of our time. So we just didn't have time to do all of our research and development and planning with our spring cheese pairing. So that didn't happen. But one popular thing we do is a jump food pairing. That is super popular. We sell so many of those every year that we do it. And last year we got an idea of keeping it all local. So we now do all just local things. Like we did Round Rock donuts with our sparkling rosé. I made a Nalthos copycat of Torchy's queso. I don't know if you ever.
Oh yeah,
It's delicious.
We did that with the trip.
green chili queso.
So good. We did
We did the with the Zinfandel. We did Tips Treats Snickerdoodle.
yeah. Yeah.
Those are my favorite treats too.
So again, we love just supporting local and people love that. They're like, oh my God, I can go buy this. Like I'm and it introduces people to a lot of product that they may not have known is out there, or that they never thought about. And I've actually had customers emulate, like they will take my our whatever menu that we put together and say, I'm gonna go do this for my girlfriend, and so I'm gonna go have my own jet food pairing, and so they kind of emulate it. So that's gonna be cool. We do
My favorite was she was mentioning have you ever had boomerang pies before?
No.
So we have our Pride and Envy, so it's a Tempranillo Cabernet.
Yeah.
So boomerang pies. I promise we're not getting kicked. But boomerang pies are like Australian meat pies that you can buy in the frozen section of like HEBs and
but they were developed by a friend of ours who lived in Australia. When he moved back, he was like, I want to start my own company, and it's going to be these Australian pies. So
it's really good. And so it was so it was excellent. We did my favorite is like their steak and potato like Guinness one, but there was another meat one that we did with this one. So I think of the day it's off candy.
Oh yeah, sure.
That's your favorite pie.
Yeah, so I'm just always in the kitchen doing something and coming up with ideas, and it's just something I love to do. Yeah. So
What about group sizes? We talked a little bit about reservations a moment ago. Do you have any maximum group sizes, or a big bus pulls up into your place, or what would you handle?
yeah, we've had tour buses show up with like 10 people, and we've got a crowded, packed tasting room, and we're so busy, and we just accommodate them the best we can without warning or reservation. That does happen occasionally, and we certainly don't turn them away, but
I would say our tasting room, you can hold about 50 people, but our Eclipse event had 250, and they were virtually all outside. So there's plenty of room. We got about like 300 to 400 spots depending on the outside area.
Yeah, but we absolutely accept tour buses. They prefer all the time. We have big groups, small groups. We do private events. We host baby showers, rehearsal dinners, birthday parties. We've got a couple of fundraiser coming up. We've got a bridal shower coming up. No, sorry, rehearsal dinner coming up. A private birthday party. So we do all kinds of, different events, and we handle all the food, and then we can do all the food and everything people want for that. So including the wine, obviously, is that.
Well, given the what takes you here, what is your you would say your busy or your slow season? What's the best time for somebody to come visit?
Right now is when it's starting to really pick up. Springtime, summertime, fall. Winter tends to be slow, but I mean, you really never know. I always tell people there's no rhyme or reason to whatever kind of traffic you're going to see on any given day in this industry. And I think anybody in the wine industry can tell you that. Like you could have just like a weirdly slow Saturday and just a crazy busy Thursday out of nowhere. There's no rhyme or reason. But yeah, spring and summertime is definitely the busiest time of the year for us, for sure.
Saturdays are normally the busiest day.
Yeah.
Sundays are good. I think it a lot depends. If we have an event going on, a lot of times, if you want to have, especially with food, live music and stuff, if that's the thing, come out at that point. Keep everything up to date on our website and social media. If you want a more relaxed, like casual, sit down, talk kind of thing, Sundays are usually a little bit better, just because obviously it's a little bit slower of a day, especially like around noon, just because people go to church, do their own thing, and then usually a gap of like 2 or 3 hours until it starts getting busier. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing here is like it's even in our busiest days, it's very welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
We're generally always here, so usually it's my dad, myself, Carol. There's generally going to be someone here, so there's always representation,
right,
for our family.
Right.
I think people appreciate that. But yeah, that was I would say Saturday for the busy days, Sundays, or during the week. We're open 7 days a week. Like you said, we that's changed during COVID just because we have so many people in this amazing area that it's like I'll stay open 7 days a week. People want to buy wine, and so we get a lot of really good experiences where people come out here during the week just because it's a lot lower. They can have a more intimate experience.
And then we talked a little bit about already your Eclipse event, and you talked about hosting bridal showers and different types of things like that. Do y'all host different types of events regularly here at the winery for people to come to?
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, we've got a fundraiser coming up in May for, forgive me, I don't know. I'm blanking some of the details. It's for the city of Liberty Hill. So they are working on in conjunction with Cedar Park, they're working on developing a new park for specific to in disabled and handicapped children and people. And they wanted to be more of just bridging the communities together, like a safe place for people to go. And so they're working on a fundraiser for that park, and they want to hold it here. Also, that's going to be something that's happening in May. So yeah, so we do events like that all the time. And people just kind of call us out of the blue. It's word of mouth. It's maybe they have a friend who's a wine club member who recommends us, or as a nice space, and good wines, nice people, hopefully. So yeah, we're always doing something. In summertime, our calendar is jam-packed. Like we rarely have a weekend open. And we also love to participate in off-site stuff. Like, for instance, Bertram and Burnet, they have their market festivals. Bertram has their market festivals regularly. They do the Oatville Festival this coming weekend. They've got, or is it next weekend? They've got their Herb Art Wine Festival, which is always really big. So we always get a booth and participate in that. And that just kind of gets our name out there a little more, and, just exposes our wine to people who may not even know we're out here. And there are a lot of people who don't know we're out here just because we're in the country. So
we have the junk beet pairing. I think in July, it's like National Ice Cream Month or something like that. So we have a neighbor who lives just down the road in that Seven Creeks community that has their own frozen yogurt shop near the outlet in Round Rock. And so last year we did a froyo pairing. Oh, it actually was phenomenal. I think that cold, like froyo, like frozen yogurt would not do well. It actually did, because we also will dress it up with toppings. Yeah,
we came up with different toppings. We did four different yogurts and 4 wines, and we came up with different toppings for everything. And it was so ingenious, I thought, and it was very, very popular. People loved it.
We have a 50th anniversary, and early August, I think we'll do that roasted pig. So we like a Cuban style roasted pig. That's phenomenal. We have a shrimp boil that we were going to do in April, and then it was like a week before the eclipse. My dad's like, I have not eaten seafood.
Yeah.
It's too much work with everything else we have planned. We'll have our wine and cheese curry. We're actually playing around with like a pizza oven to see if we can master making pizza.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see all that.
Yeah, pizza and wine. Pizza at wineries is obviously very popular. So we're kind of like looking to getting into that. Paninis are very time consuming and keeps me in the kitchen all day long. So
You mentioned a moment ago your wine club.
Yeah.
Yeah, that needs to be opened up. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we
Tell me about your wine club. What are the details there?
yeah, so we have 3 different tiers. We've got 3 bottle, 6 bottle, or case. Based on the tier you select, that sort of dictates like what your discount will be on any merchandise, or when you come in and order charcuterie or wine bottles or whatever, you get your, applicable discount on that based on the level that you join. We're very relaxed on for what you get in your wine club. For instance, we'll email you and say, hey, Mr. Customer, you're in the 3 bottle club. Here's what you have coming up in your next allotment, which is, going to be due on this date, whatever. But if you want to change anything out, swap anything out, add stuff, we're totally okay with that. We're not just like, this is what you get in that show. Because there are some wineries that are like that. And yeah, when you come in, you get free tasting for a couple of guests, and we do Vitwurst glasses for Wine Club members. So if you stop in, and we change them out based on the seasonality and availability and all that stuff. But we'll typically have a white, a rosé, and a red as an option for a complimentary pour. And some people really like that perk, just getting their free glass of wine. And when for wine club pickup parties, we do complimentary food. So we typically do something super delicious. Like our next one coming up May 17th will be our first, or our summer pickup, I guess. And we're going to do gourmet hamburgers, which are always very popular. People love those, and they love that it's free. It's just a little perk we like to give our, wine club members, just to thank them for their support and bringing in. Nothing thrills me more than when we have wine club members who bring in friends who then join our wine club, or just enjoy our wine and buy some of our wine to take home. So, we really appreciate that aspect of it. But it's a very simple wine club, not a lot of frills to it. You do get some really good perks and lots of free food out of it. And yeah, it's pretty much it.
Yeah, I was gonna say we personally are members of lots of wine clubs.
Yeah.
And so I've seen kind of good, better, best, and what happens. And I do like the flexibility of choosing what you want to do. There's some that don't do anything for their members, and I'm like, so we've always we kind of joke around. It's like the cost of doing business. It's like people support us routinely, and in return, we'll give you that VIP treatment right here, right? So complimentary glass, complimentary tasting. Whatever we need to help you guys out.
Yep.
And can people sign up for that online?
Absolutely. They can sign up for it online or in person. We have, the pamphlets in house that they can fill out. But yeah, we have people sign up online for my club. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of time we used to tell people, like, again, kind of talking about that no pressure kind of situation. My dad's favorite saying is like, look, just if you're on the fence, just go home, come back twice. The second time you come back, if you still like the wine, then join. Or, give us some time we'll earn that trust, we'll earn that loyalty from.
Right. I mean, yeah.
No pressure, never fails.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing we never, as wine consumers, because we always like to base decisions on how we act, and I don't want to be pressured into something 5 minutes in. I've just had one of your wines. I don't know. I don't know your story. I don't know where you're going, and so most of the wine clubs that we're personally members of are smaller outfits that just they treat you like your family. You can see the hard work, the dedication, the quality of their wine, and I love supporting places like that because it's very rare to go to. I wouldn't say very rare, but there's not a lot of selection, unfortunately, of Texas wines in your grocery store, and unless you're lucky to live in a certain area. But so whatever we can do to support the community, I've always been a big proponent.
Yeah. Same. So.
Tell me about what we're drinking here.
Yeah, so this is that, we talked about that happy accident earlier.
Yeah.
So this is that happy accident. So this is called the Red Tyrant. And so we named this, it's another blend. It's 60% High Plains Cab, and then 20% our Estate Mourvedre.
Oh, okay.
And 20% our Estate Tannat. So this is both from 22. Again, like I said, Tannat, and you'll get the Tannat in there. Not only will you get the kind of plum notes from the flavor, but you're going to get tannins, right? But it was a lighter year. It's a lower percentage, only 20% Tannat, so it's not too trippy. But we named it after the Red Tyrant, word-wise, came after we have this. So we had that big oak grove,
Yes.
right? around the vines. And every March until August, we have this beautiful red bird, and it's called a vermilion flycatcher. It's the size of a sparrow, and it's so small, but it's bright red, has black wings, and it has this like robber's mask, like bandit mask around its eyes that is also black. And it's come here literally every year since we owned the property, and it just dominates that tree.
Dominates the tree, has a little harem that's like the lines around, follows it around.
There's like 4 or 5 ladies that follow him. Yeah.
We knew that with we released a red blend, we wanted to tie it into that bird somehow, kind of like we did with our blondies and our dog. And it's a fun story to tell. And it's funny when, like just last weekend, I had poured for this wine for some customers, and he was like, "Oh my God, I see the bird! I see it!" And they were like videoing it. It was really cute because they're like, "Oh, they could be just making up this story, and I just have a story to tell." But it's funny when they actually see the bird, and you're like, "God, that bird is really red and beautiful." So
it's a plus for us too because he eats insects. It's called a flycatcher.
Yeah.
So he's not trying to eat our grapes. So
right.
I have the first time we ever were harvesting, we had nets over the vines, and obviously birds love fruit, and so you'd see a bird like caught in the net, and the first reaction was, "I had to go save this bird." And after like 3rd or 4th day, it's like, I hate these birds. But that he's great because him and his harem, they don't want fruit. They're to protect the tree, and they'll hang out on the bottom branches. We have some Edison bulbs that kind of surround the tree, so for like nighttime events, we'll have the whole tree lit up. But yeah, he sits there and he'll just pop down and snag flies and moths and that kind of stuff. So very beneficial.
Yeah.
So no.
All right, well, let's say that right now, out of people are getting excited, this is really cool. We've already talked about the difficulty in finding Texas wines. Unfortunately, so many wineries in Texas are boutique-style wineries, so it's very difficult to get into the distribution scheme and all that kind of stuff. But let's say somebody wants to taste your wine, but they can't get here for whatever reason. Do you sell online? Do you do any kind of ways where...
Yeah, we have an online store. You just go to our website and buy our wine. We currently are featured at a little wine bar in Pflugerville called the Three-Legged Goat.
Yes.
So actually, we had a customer come out last week because he had gone to that wine bar and tasted our wine, and he wanted more. So he came out with some friends and had a great experience. And so they are currently featuring 3 of our wines: our Blondies, our Pride and Envy, and our GPSM, which is a Grenache Petit Syrah Morbid blend. And it's going really well. So that was my first kind of foray into, getting our wine out there in like a little, restaurant or tasting room and wine bar. And so far it's worked very well. Their marketing's worked well. They're driving the traffic, and hopefully, we're kind of doing that for them as well. So yeah, we hope to do more of that. Right. We've enjoyed keeping everything sort of boutique and local, just, to the tasting room. We want people to come out here and have the experience and, whatever. But sometimes people can't always make it out here. So I'm definitely going to be looking more into getting some of our wine out into the community, just to expose people to our wine who may not be able to make it out here. But yeah, for now, we definitely have a web store that they can purchase off of, and it's pretty much everything.
Yeah, that's good. So we also even have started to try to, when we first started, we didn't have the need because we were so small, production was so light that, you could, didn't need to go sell it. As we grow, kind of going back to owning in a very plain way, now we're at the point where okay, let's get our name out a little more, which is exciting. But yeah, so, the Three-Legged Goat, we're starting to work out and making some connections with certain restaurants, try to get her out towards the Austin way, to get, especially places that definitely cater to, locality. We definitely do various events. So she was talking about the Bertram Art and Wine Fair that's happening. It'll be after this is aired, but it's late April. And then we just did something at Horseshoe Bay. And so trying to do more of events like that, eventually, probably in the next year, especially with some of the wine we're releasing in the next year, we'll have the inventory to actually dabble a little bit, so maybe Total Wine or something like that. So some select stores where I know customers are going to appreciate it, and it's not going to be something that's just lost on a counter space. So it's getting there.
Yeah,
it's baby steps. Yeah. But I'd rather it be baby steps than you make all this wine and then, you do you amount to sell like something.
Well, just as a further word to the listeners, Texas wine, we want to make sure we get more Texas wine in Texas, wherever you're at the shopping center, at the grocery store, at restaurants, things like that. So make sure you ask for Texas wine. When you go to a restaurant, you go to a store, you open up and you don't see a lot of Texas or any Texas, ask. The best we can do as consumers is to ask for more Texas wine. And so be sure to ask that. Ask for your favorites. In partnership with the Texas Wine Lover app and website, they even have a place you can go download a little card that you can fill out and write your favorite vineyard or winery on it and hand that to the manager. So just make sure, let's get more Texas wine out there into customers' hands here in Texas, especially.
I would like to personally echo, and this isn't anything that has been brought up, but you brought it up perfectly well, which is demand Texas wine.
Yeah.
If you're at the store, a restaurant, go out there and demand it. Help drive that behavior. Yeah. That's something that, if we're such a large producer in the state and the demand is there, there's no reason why we can't demand it and drive the demand. The stores aren't doing it because they're trying to push behavior out to you. They're catering to the demand of what they see. And at the end of the day, go out there, shape the demand, be a part of this revolution.
Yeah. Just as an example, there's a restaurant in Bertram that just celebrated being open for a year, and they continually get questions about, why don't you have Texas wines on you're in this area where you've got all these amazing wineries in your backyard. Why don't you have Texas wine on your menu? It's all California. And you can't tell me they're saving money by getting wine from California that they could get from, a Texas winery. So,
and they're starting to showcase it.
Yeah, after a year. But it's just like, yeah, you have to kind of put pressure on people, and the demand has to be there for them to consider it. So, that's what we always do.
Every business is about taking care of your customers. And so if your customers are constantly saying, this is what we want, and you say, well, this is what we're going to provide you. I know this may be what you want, but this is what we're going to give you. That doesn't work out for business. So what's the squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing, the more people that can say, we want Texas wine, they're going to start to listen. They have to.
I love that you brought up Texas Wine Lover. They've been great.
Yeah.
We're members of theirs. It's a great place it's a great avenue, not just to find wineries, but then find vineyards as well.
Yeah.
So as a winery where you're looking to source fruit, it's great that they've created this conglomerate of resources that you can go, because there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of different wine regions in Texas, and everyone is doing their own thing. To your point, what grows best here, that might be typically up in the high plains. For us, like I said, I'm very partial to Sous out here. Morbid does really well here. You go down to southeast, you might see, some Blanc de Bois, and you go up to north, and they can grow some stuff that we don't grow. Like maybe they grow Chardonnay up there that we struggle with here in our heat. So it's a big state. Have an open mind, and go out there and support them. They're really good.
So do you have any plans for future growth? I know you've talked about the expanding of the vineyard and possibly the production facility, things like that. What does the future look like for Seven Creeks?
So the first foremost thing it is definitely the production facility, the larger production facility, because I told my dad, I was like, stop. I'm going to quit. Keep doing the vineyard piece. It's so much work. And it's gotten to the point where we're soon, within the next year or two, going to start producing so much wine from our vineyard that we're stressing the capabilities of our facility to produce it, let alone all the other wines that we obviously go to market with from other, that are the fruit source from other vineyards. And so that's far and away the massive priority that we're all in agreement with. So like I said, hopefully doing a 6,000 or 7,000 square foot production building. And we'll see when money all shings down, because the building is just one aspect of it. The production equipment's very exorbitant too, but that's the goal is to operate that way first. And then, from there, as time goes on, maybe in 2 or 3 years, obviously as everything scales, we're selling our wine in different avenues. The revenue would then dictate, hey, let's staff up. Let's get more people to help out in the vineyard, more permanent employees that can help maintain a vineyard, especially as we grow. It's nice to have a Saturday off every now and then. So that would be the goal, is to do the production facility first, and then within 2 or 3, 4 years after that, based on how everything's going, kind of fully expand that vineyard. So right now we have 15 acres of property. About 10 or so acres of that is vines currently. And we'd probably have room for maybe two to 3 more acres of vines. So that, I think at that would be good. We'd love to be like a 7 at the most, and this would be years out. It would be about a 7,000 case a year production.
Okay.
Right now, we're probably around 1,800 to 2,000. So going back to that growth phase, we certainly wouldn't grow to be a 7,000 case a year production. Sure. The next year, once that larger production building is built, but baby step it, and go from there. So that, I think that's, to me, where it is.
Well, what, in your opinion, would you say is the number one thing that really sets Seven Creeks Vineyard apart from many other places that people go visit that my listeners would have to say, man, I really need to go see it because of that?
Well, one thing, first and foremost, the one thing I hear over and over again from customers, and I think this goes back to something I said earlier, is when they come here, they always tell us, I literally just feel like I'm hanging out at my friend's house or like my mom's house. Like you guys make it such a welcoming, just fun, laid back, chill environment. I just kind of want to bring everybody here and just hang out all day. And people will literally bring their families and hang out all day long here and play cornhole and drink wine and eat food and, just have a grand old time. And, like that was like the funnest thing ever. So, and that's definitely an experience we want every customer to just walk away feeling one day happy.
I would say, and it sounds cliche-ish because you're like, oh, that family kind of, everyone, says that, but I like, we love wine. Like I always look at us as like the perfect like wine customer because we drink a lot of wine. We love wine. We support a lot of Texas wineries. And so, but yeah, it's true. Like I've gone to a million, like almost every Texas winery that's out there. And, it's a great community. I don't want to throw shade or anything, but it's true. Like it's a very family oriented atmosphere. Wine for us has always been something that's shared amongst family with food and good times and leave the pretentiousness at the door. Not that there's not a place for it, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, it's about having a good time. If you come here, 99 times out of 100, you're going to talk to her or me or my dad or Janice. And that's actually kind of rare, I think,
Yeah, and usually you just have your staff work, which we do have staff, but, it's, when they come there, when people come through the doors, they're easily talking and getting an experience from one of the owners or the winemaker himself. Sometimes they don't even know that unless he introduces himself as the winemaker. They're just like, oh, this guy knows a lot about Yeah.
Outside of that, I would say, we're also, I think, producing, some wine and growing some fruit that some people haven't heard of before. And that's one thing that I hear a lot, whether it's our fruit or not, is I've never heard of that variety before. Now, obviously, if you get someone that's like really into wine, someone who's done we set 2, 3, whatever, that's not as the same conversation. But for the average consumer, like they never heard of Seychelles. They never heard of Tinta Amarilla. They never heard of a la carte boucher. What the heck is this? And then they taste it and they're like, this is awesome. It's like, yes, that's exactly like, if you think about like why, so Cab is still the number one produced, red grape in Texas. And it's like, but it's also been in the ground longer than almost every other, type of variety that we have here. But that a lot of times I think came from, when vineyards were deciding what to plant like 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, whatever it was, they were like, you grow what people are going to make wine of and that they're going to sell in a store. And without any sort of like, thought of like what grows well here. And again, Cab can grow very well in Texas. I don't want to make a caveat, but at the end of the day, that's what they were growing.
Yeah.
And so, and they're so afraid of people going, and this is true, when you talk about distribution, people go into a store, they're going to buy what they know. They come to a tasting room, they're like, I may have never ever tasted this Seychelles before. I might have walked right past it and out the store. But I'll try it. And they try it and they're blown away. And that to me is, aside from the family aspect, is introducing customers to varieties that are now their favorites.
And you better believe it will be a memorable experience when you go to visit at Seven Creeks. And you got to make sure and try some of those interesting different varietals. If you haven't tasted some of those before, it's a perfect opportunity to try some new things. And if you have tried them before, this is your chance to see what Seven Creeks can do with those, with a different terroir and winemaking style and so forth. So again, a great place to go visit for a fun experience with great wines. Now, as always, before you go, make sure you check out their website. It's www.sevencreeksvineyard.com. Now, be sure you use the number 7, okay? So www.7creeksvineyard.com. And there you'll find great information about all of the different wines that they're producing. You can find out about their wine club if you're interested in that. They post information about the events. Don't forget those cool junk food tastings. And they also have information about some of their background and story that you heard some of that in the interview itself. And don't forget, when you go to see them, make sure you tell them you heard about them on this podcast, Texas Under Vine. Now, as usual, after we finished the interview, Briggs and Carol showed me around a little bit more of that beautiful tasting room, the live oak grove, the vineyard. I was able to get a lot of pictures and even a video walkthrough for my Patreon subscribers. After that, though, the time came for me to pick the one bottle that I wanted to buy for my wine library for this particular episode. Now, if you've watched many of these episodes before, you may realize from some of my selections, I'm pretty much a big red drinker. I will drink some rosés and some whites here and there. I've picked a few of those along this journey, but typically my tastes lean more towards picking a red, and that's exactly what I thought I would do in this episode. However, to my surprise, when all was said and done, you know what I picked? That 2021 Blondie's Cuvée that we talked about and tasted in the interview itself. Look, it's even got their dog Blondie's picture right there on the label. Really cool. But this is such a great wine. It is a Marsanne and Roussanne blend. It's a very rich, full mouth feel of the wine itself. It's got a lot of citrus and honey on the nose when you're starting to smell it a little bit, but on the palate, you're getting things like peach and even maybe some pear in it. It was really delightful and such a fun wine to drink. And I didn't even mention the acidity. It was so clean and crisp and refreshing. I may be turning into a white wine drinker with all these amazing Texas wines I've been privileged to drink throughout the course of this podcast. And Blondie's Cuvée, definitely highly recommended. So I bought one of those as my library bottle for this episode. You got to try it when you go to visit them. Now, after I spent a little time relaxing in that oak grove and checking out the vineyard, sipping on some great wine, I found, unfortunately, I have to move along. So I have other great wine destinations to bring to you. So that's going to bring us towards the end of this particular episode. But before I go, I would like to request a favor from you. I would love to get this show out in front of even more great people who want to know about Texas wines, who want to visit some of these great Texas wine destinations we have, but may feel a little overwhelmed or don't really even know that they exist. And so would you do me a favor? If you're enjoying the show, share this with your friends. Tell them about the podcast. Let them know about some of these fun, great places. Even better, grab those friends and bring them with you when you go to Seven Creeks or when you go to some of the places that we have in the episodes on this podcast. But even more so, another thing you can do, if you would leave me a rating and a review wherever you get the podcast, it really does help change the algorithm and get it a little higher in the listings for other people to discover and find. And then we can spread even more great word about the awesome wines and wine destinations that we have here in Texas. And for about the last 10 episodes or so now, I've been really focused on the video side of things. So really my main focus is the video part of the episode. Hopefully you're watching me right now on YouTube. If you're not and you're listening, make sure you go check it out on YouTube. You can go to my channel at Texas Under Vine on YouTube to find the episodes there and see the video of all of the interview and everything that we do in the episode. And if you're checking it out on YouTube, always like, subscribe, and follow so you get all the information there as new episodes come out, and leave a comment there on YouTube. So you can tell me what's your favorite thing that you like about Seven Creeks Vineyard if you've been there before. And if you haven't been yet, then tell me what's the thing you're most looking forward to when you do go visit them. Just leave that in the comments below there on YouTube. And with that, my time is up. So don't forget, subscribe to the podcast and follow my socials to be notified anytime a brand new episode is released. And until then, happy trails and bottoms up, y'all. Thanks for listening to Texas Under Vine. We strive to provide you with the best information about wine businesses all over Texas. Be sure to check out our website at texasundervine.com and follow us on our socials at Texas Under Vine to stay up on all the upcoming episodes. Please email us with any suggestions or feedback. Also, contact us if you're interested in donating, sponsoring, or advertising on the podcast, just to help us cover our expenses and bring even more great info to you in future episodes. Above all, travel safely, and most especially, drink responsibly. Howdy, Vine Trippers. Did you know that I now have a merchandise store for Texas Under Vine? I only have a handful of limited items, but you can go check those out and wear your Texas Under Vine swag if you'd like to tell all your friends about the great wine locations we have here in Texas and maybe get them interested in the podcast as well. So there are things like t-shirts, there's a hoodie, there's a beanie, a ball cap, things like that. But one of the most exciting things I have right now is my limited time offer t-shirt. That's my season 1 t-shirt. So this is your Tasting Through Texas Under Vine season 1 t-shirt. It's only going to be available for a little short amount of time. On the back, it has all the different locations like a band tour t-shirt. So this is a limited time item and you can go out and get it now. And one of the great things about that t-shirt is a portion of every sale goes to support the Texas Hill Country Winery Scholarship Fund. So you know that by buying that t-shirt, you're also investing in the growing and flourishing of an amazing wine industry here in Texas and all of those people that are going to come and make it even better. Check out that merchandise store. It's on my website at texasundervine.com. Just go up to the top. You'll see the link for the merchandise store.